Hello. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Not Just Nintendo, the video game podcast that is about Nintendo. But it's not just Nintendo here at Not Just Nintendo, as I talk about other video games and other video game companies as well. Welcome back, everybody. Now, you'll know, for those that actually, watch every episode, for those that are regular listeners of the show, you'll know that I missed last week. I missed an episode. I know, this is quite the catastrophe. I did not mean to miss an episode. I'm sorry. I apologize. I know, put my head on a stick, on a pike, whatever. Go for it. Get it out of your system, So basically what happened was, after the last episode, I had said that it would be 2 more weeks, and then I'd put out episode 31. And then it'd only be 1 week, and then I'd put out 32. And this is when episode 32 should have came out today. Instead, it's episode 31, because I did not put out that episode last week. That was supposed to be episode 31. What happened is I recorded the entire thing last show, which is basically going to be mostly what this show is. I'm basically moved back a week. There's some other things that have changed, a couple of things, but not much. It's mostly the same episode. And I recorded that entire show. It was great. It was like an hour 50 minutes long, something like that. It was, it was a pretty long episode, all things considered. And then I realized, after I had recorded the whole thing, that my audio quality was all messed up. And I don't think I had changed any settings on my microphone. I think it just kind of changed itself. I don't know what happened. I don't know why it happened. I have no idea. But I kind of sounded like this for the entire episode, as if I was like underwater. I don't even know if you can understand that. It was really bad. I thought I was underwater. That's what it sounded like. And, as much as I was tempted to just, put a little warning at the start of the episode and be like, this episode is brought to you from Bikini Bottom, I instead decided that I would just scrap the episode and re-record the whole thing. So I fixed my audio settings, re-recorded the whole episode, or not the whole episode, like half the episode, and it was still, messed up, even though I had already tested it and it was fine. And turns out it was something like with my audio, or not with my, but with my video editing software. And I tried to get back the original recording of the video, but it had already rendered. It was like a whole thing, and so it wasn't working. I don't even know all the details. I don't know exactly why it happened, but I think I fixed it. This episode should be all good. I hope. It better be. I swear. So that it was a bit of a mess, and so things did not work out last week. We got to Friday or something, and I figured, I'm just gonna not worry about it. We're gonna skip this episode, and the podcast will be back next week. I don't know if I even told anybody online. I probably should have posted something about that on the community post, but I didn't. I don't know if I did. I actually might have. New news as well on YouTube. On a brighter note, yes, the podcast is on my YouTube channel, as many of you know. It's probably where a lot of you listen to it. But the podcast is also on its own YouTube channel now. It has its own YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is Not Just Nintendo - a video game podcast, which is the official title of the whole podcast. And it has the regular, art and stuff. You can find it. I think the handle is at Not Just Nintendo, all one word. So yeah, you can find it. I'm just gonna link it in the description along with my main channel. So yeah, the podcast is in another place. It's still on YouTube. It's exactly the same as how it is on my main channel. It's just in its own home. And that may seem weird. It may seem like I'm just, re-uploading videos just for the purpose of it. But the reason is because I would like to eventually move the podcast off of my main channel. And the reasons for that, obviously there's the idea that the podcast floods up people's notifications. It's not the exact same audience of people that watch both my main channel and my other channel, the rest of the podcast stuff and the stuff on my main channel. It's not exactly the same audience. There is some overlap for sure, but there's people that might watch the podcast that might not want to watch the regular videos, and there's people that watch the regular videos who might not want to watch the podcast, and so I wanted to kind of differentiate the two of them. But obviously I couldn't just take the podcast off the main channel and put it on another channel, because then nobody would watch it. It would get no views. So I wanted to, and there'd probably be people that didn't know that had moved, even no matter how hard I tried to make it clear. So I figured for now I would have it on 2 channels, and then hopefully in the future, if we can get people on this new channel, then eventually I can take it off the main channel, and I'll probably keep the videos that have already been posted, but I'm not gonna post any more. Hopefully that can happen, and then they can be separated fully. So that's the plan. We'll see how that works. We'll see. Maybe this channel will be scrapped eventually. I don't know. The plan for now, though, is to have the podcast coming out on 2 different YouTube channels, at least for a little while. See how things work out, hopefully fairly well. And that's the plan. So that means for like emails and stuff, like if you want to email the show, if you want to give any sort of, feedback, if you want to send in questions, anything like that for me to answer on the show, you can, of course, still email the show at notjustnintendo@gmail.com. That is NOTJUSTNINTENDO@gmail.com. But you can also comment on the main YouTube channel or on the podcast YouTube channel. And so from now on, I'll just say comment on YouTube because people will probably not realize that it's in both places. Unless, they're in the know. So I'm just going to say comment on YouTube, comment on Spotify. You can also still comment on Spotify. I've not had anybody comment on Spotify yet, but it does work. I did test it. So if you comment directly on Spotify, that'll also send me the question if you have a question or whatever. And we are actually getting some viewers on Spotify now. I've actually noticed we've been getting a few views or a few streams every episode on Spotify, so that's pretty cool. So if you're listening on Spotify, say hello in the comment section. I'm curious to hear. And of course, like I said, you can also email all that stuff. So whatever works for you, you can do whatever. You can get that stuff to me any way you want. And I will read out any questions, any of that stuff. But yes, the podcast is in a new spot. Like I said, I just wanted to differentiate the audiences a little bit and declutter the video feed on my main channel as well, because on my main channel, the video tab is quite full, and so I wanted to kind of declutter that a little bit. So that was the plan, and hopefully it'll work, and hopefully it has worked, and we'll see what happens. That's kind of where we're at. So, like I said, apologies about last week, and also welcome if you're watching on the new channel. If you're not, maybe you should check it out, subscribe, even if you continue to watch stuff over here, you can watch them in both places if you'd like. It doesn't really matter. So, all right, with all that said, let's actually get it properly into the show, into the segment of the show. I'm going to, of course, be talking about stuff I've been playing, things I've been up to, and also maybe some upcoming things. I guess I could talk about that right now, actually. This week, so on Thursday, Yakuza Kiwami and Yakuza Kiwami 2, both, will come out on the Switch 2. So, Kiwami 1 did come out on the Switch 1 years ago. I don't think anybody played it. But Kiwami 1 and Kiwami 2 are coming to the Switch 2 on Thursday, and they're coming to other platforms. I know the PS5, maybe the Xbox, I'm not sure, in December as well. So those games are coming out. I will definitely be playing them. I don't know if I'll be able to pick up Kiwami 1 on launch day or not. It's going to depend on a few things. First of all, I've got like an orchestra concert on Thursday. And on Friday, my parents are out of town, so I'm not entirely sure how things are going to work with all that. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'll be able to get it sometime this week. Otherwise, I might have to wait until like Saturday or Sunday even to play Kiwami 1. So we'll see what happens. That's number one. And number two, I'm not sure if my Walmart's going to carry the games. I'm going to guess there's a chance they might not. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully I don't have to, like, order them or something, because that would really suck. I hate buying things online. That sucks. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. I know I've just said that 5 times. But anyways, who knows? But yes, those games are coming out. I'm excited to get to play them. Hopefully I will get to play them sooner rather than later. And hopefully I'll be able to talk about them next time on the show, is my hope, or at least for the first game, not for the second game. I'm not entirely sure if I'll end up playing the second game this year. I know I will play the first game this year, unless I can't find it or something. I'm pretty confident I will play the first game this year, and I'll probably beat the whole thing. It's not very long. Whether or not I'll play the second game this year, I'm not yet sure. We'll have to see. I would like to finish it, but I'm not going to, push it too much. So if I can finish, the first one, then it can obviously be in this year's end of the year list, which, by the way, I think I might have talked about this a little bit last show, but it's a little hard for me to tell because I recorded a whole episode that didn't go out because, like I said, with the audio issue. So it's kind of hard for me to remember whether or not you guys know stuff, whether or not I've told it before yet. But for those who don't know, every year, I say every year, I started this last year, so it's not exactly like an established thing yet, but we're establishing it now. Every year I do a end of the year ranking list, so I rank all of the games I played in the year. I know a lot of people like to do their top 10s and things like that. I like to talk about every game I played in a given year, so I am ranking every single video game that I played in 2025, or moreover, everyone since the last list. So last year, my list went out on December 25th, 2024. So every game I've beaten since then, which includes a couple that I beat in between the 25th and the end of the year, and then everything else since then. This year, I think the list is going to go out the weekend before Christmas, which I can't actually remember. Hold on, let me pull up a December calendar. I think I did this in the show that didn't go out as well. Which is kind of interesting. Yes, December 8th, or December 19th, I think, is the plan for this year's end of year ranking. That's the game plan, is to put it out on December 19th. If all else fails, it'll probably go out on the 26th. And there will also be an audio-only version for the podcast, so the regular video will go out. That'll go out on my YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, go check that out in the description. I post some other videos over there occasionally. It's been a little while, to be fair. I don't do a whole lot over there. I need to start streaming again. But yeah, so I do some stuff over there from time to time, and so there's some fun stuff over there. So check that out. And yeah, my end of the year ranking will go up over there as a video version, and I'll have like gameplay from each of the games, as well as me talking. And I like to think I edited the last one pretty well. I'm thinking this year that video will probably be a little bit shorter. I've beat a few less games this year, because they've been longer games. And also, I would like to keep it a little shorter this year, because last year it was like a whole hour, the video, and I'm a little concerned that might be part of why a lot of people didn't watch it. Like, I think it might have been a little daunting for a lot of people. So yeah, this will be my third video like this, because I did an end of the year ranking in 2024. I did a top 50 video games of all time in July of this year. And that was kind of a similar type video, because my 2024 ranking was like 43 games. So this was a few more games, and it was kind of the same idea, except it wasn't all stuff I'd played that one year. And this will be, again, the same idea. I think so far I've got like 37 or something that I beat for the first time this year. I don't know my exact count, but yeah, I think it's around 37. I'm pretty confident I can finish. There's like 3 more that I'm confident I will beat. And after that, I think I'll beat at least 2 or 3 other than that. So I think it'll probably end up being around the same amount as last year, or maybe 1 or 2 less. But yeah, I think the video will be similar quality. I hope it's better, right? Obviously, I'd like it to be better. So that'll be coming out in December. Like I said, either the 19th or the 26th. We'll see what happens. I'm not entirely sure yet. The goal is the 19th, and I really need to get going on that, because I know it's only in November 11th, but I do actually kind of need to get started on that, because it does take a lot of time to edit that video and to get things polished with that. It's quite a daunting project, to be fair. So that's the plan. We'll see how that works. And yes, I don't know if I have anything else for the end of the year that I'm gonna do. I was gonna do like a, end of the year compilation or something, but to be honest, I haven't really done as much this year as I hoped. I've not done nearly as much streaming this year. I'm hoping to kind of get back into streaming here in the next few weeks, so we'll see what happens on that front. Also, for those who don't know about the channel, or who haven't watched it in a while, YT Gininja, I put out a video again for the first time in a while, a couple weeks ago over there, so videos are back on YT Gininja. I'm hoping to keep it active again, so you can check out that channel. I do a bunch of like geography related stuff over there. I play mapping games like Dummy Nation, that kind of thing. So check that out. I do have a Minecraft channel as well, I guess, since we're on the topic, but I haven't posted anything over there in a little while, so I don't know. I'm hoping to keep that active, but we'll see. Anyways, alright, so that's enough of that. Let's talk about games I've been playing. So to be honest, these last couple of days, I've actually been playing a lot of Minecraft, with some people from school, people from my Discord server, which, by the way, you could join my Discord server. I know this is like this show of me plugging things. But yeah, so you can join the Discord server. We have a community Minecraft server, that we host, through there, so you can look at that. But yes, with some people on my Discord server and people I know in real life, we've been doing a lot of Minecrafting here in the last few days, so I haven't played quite as much as I had hoped for this show, especially considering it's been 3 weeks. You'd expect I would have came and, like, beat 100 things, but I didn't. I do have a couple things still to talk about, though. Last week, I talked quite a bit about Pac-Man World Re-Pac. Last week I was about halfway through the game, I want to say, and I had a lot of complaints last week about Pac-Man World, about a lot of things, because you know me. But yeah, specifically about Pac-Man World, I had a lot of complaints about the game. I thought it was mediocre, and I think that sentiment is still true. Is still true. This week, I still think it's a mediocre game, to be honest. But I think I'm actually more negative on it now than I was then, if that's possible. Pac-Man World Re-Pac, it's just not that good a game, if I'm being completely honest. It's a 3D platformer. I mean, if those who don't know, this game was originally put out on the PS1 way back. Oh God, Pac-Man World. I'm gonna actually look it up because I can't actually. I know this is exactly what all of you guys are looking for on a podcast, is people looking things up on Google. Pac-Man World Re-Pac originally came out on the PS1 in 1999. So this game is originally from 1999, so it's a platformer kind of in the age of 3D platformers, right? You have Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, that kind of stuff, that kind of, and Crash Bandicoot as well, that kind of pioneered 3D platformers. And this is one of the earlier games that kind of took advantage of that hype and kind of tried to run with it. And it's not anywhere near the level of a game like Mario 64. Obviously, I'm biased. I love Mario 64. It's my favorite game of all time. But yeah, this is not quite on that level for me, or I would imagine for most people. Pac-Man World Re-Pac does a lot of things that are not quite as good. So the general idea of the levels, it's more of a I would actually say, if I'm comparing it to a 3D Mario game, I would say the level design is a little bit more similar to like Super Mario 3D World potentially. So for those who don't know, like the 3D Mario games, right? I would lump like Super Mario 64 and probably Sunshine and Odyssey in like an open category, right? Those games are pretty open. You can kind of go around, you can do whatever you want. Like they have pretty large open spaces. It's not a sandbox per se, right? There's objectives, but you can kind of like do things out of order and that kind of stuff. Whereas the games in the middle, Mario Galaxy and Mario Galaxy 2, are a bit more linear, right? You have like platforming challenges. In platforming challenges do exist in the other games, of course, but they're a little bit more open. There's a lot of big areas where you're going around collecting things. In Galaxy, it's less about collecting things and more about platforming challenges, like tight platforming. And then in Super Mario 3D World and Super Mario 3D Land, once again, it's tight flat platforming challenges, and there's very little to collect relatively to the other games. You're collecting like a few collectibles per level, rather than like a lot of things, and you're in much smaller levels, because the design philosophy for Super Mario 3D World and Super Mario 3D Land is more like a 2D Mario game, right? So like Super Mario 3D World literally is a 2D Mario game in 3D, which the other games are not. Like, do not get confused here. Super Mario 64 is not a 2D Mario game in 3D. It might have felt like it in 1996, but looking at it from a modern lens, they're quite different games, actually. There's very little similarity between the two, I would say, actually. And so, looking at those games, but Super Mario 3D World really is a 2D Mario game in a 3D space. It seems to align more with that design philosophy. And I would say Pac-Man World Re-Pac is more like Super Mario 3D Land or World, in that sense. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like, I mean, I like Super Mario 3D World not quite as much as I like Mario 64 or Galaxy, but it's pretty close. I think at my in my top 50 list of all time, I put, obviously, like Mario 64 was my number one, Mario Sunshine was my number two. I want to say Mario Galaxy was my number four, Galaxy 2 was seven, and 3D World was like nine. I'm pretty sure is where I put all those 3D Mario games. And then Odyssey wasn't on my list. It's not one of my favorite 50. And Bowser's Fury, I think, was like 20th or something. So that kind of gives you an idea of my opinions on 3D Mario games. I know I'm a little controversial. I don't really like Odyssey too much. And Bonanza is a fantastic game. I know it's not a 3D Mario game, but it's by the same team, and it seems like a kind of a similar thing. And I think it's kind of our 3D Mario game for this generation, Bonanza. So yeah, I would say Bonanza is kind of on a similar vein. Like it's right up there with Mario 64 for me. It's not number one, but it's probably two or maybe three behind Sunshine. And we'll see. I mean, obviously, this year it's going to be my number one game of the year. Just to spoil things for you, it's going to be my game of the year, no doubt. I don't think there's anything I could play this year that I could potentially could potentially surpass it. Like, I don't think it's possible. There might not ever be another thing that surpasses it. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Anyways, it's very good. My opinion might waver over time, but for now, it's definitely probably like my number 3 game or something of all time. My point is that Pac-Man World Re-Pac is nowhere near any of those games, even if it does some similar things here and there. The level design is okay, right? Like, I think the platforming challenges are fine. It doesn't feel like it's totally inspired, and with the actual level design and the placement of objects and things. Another thing that really irks me is the enemies, right? The enemies in Mario games and in a lot of platformers, there's a lot of, like, variety in enemies, right? The enemies usually fit the theme of the level. There's very different ways in which you defeat a lot of them. I mean, obviously there's the general, like, oh, jump on its head, right? But there's ones you can't jump on their head, and there's a bit of a difference, right? Whereas with Pac-Man World, you really have, like, 3 enemies or something. Like, there's, like, these ghosts that you can't defeat by jumping on them. You have to get a power-up pellet. There are, like, things that shoot things at you, and then there's things that just kind of walk around. That it's really, you have 3 types of enemies. That's pretty much it. Beyond that, there's a metal power-up that you can get as Pac-Man that can help you defeat metal enemies. And it's kind of a weird system where, like, if you're Metal Pac-Man, you can walk into an enemy to defeat it. If you're not Metal Pac-Man, you have to actually, like, jump on an enemy or dash through it. You have, like, a dash mechanic as well. If you're Metal Pac-Man and the enemy is Metal Pac-Man, then you can't walk into it, you have to jump on it or dash through it. And if you're regular Pac-Man and the enemy's metal, then you can't touch it at all. You have to get a metal power-up in order to defeat it. So it's a little strange how that works. And then also, like I said, with the power-up pellets, you can blast through any enemy, you can blast through pretty much anything without any consequences. You can just collect points and stuff. And this is, Pac-Man World is very much a point-based game. Obviously, points are pretty much useless in all games, but in this one, I don't really mind its implementation, because obviously, historically, you know, Pac-Man in the arcades was point-based, so it kind of makes sense that you would use points again on this, even if it's a little outdated. Even for 1999, it's a little outdated, but especially here in this came out in 2022, that's obviously a little outdated as well. So yeah, the enemies were uninspiring. I think for the most part, they usually didn't fit the theme of the levels. They might have, like, put a pirate hat on the ghosts for the pirate theme or something, like something like that. But it's not generally, you don't generally see different enemies and stuff based on your level. So it's generally kind of just the same thing with not any real major changes or anything, which isn't ideal, to be honest, but it's also not the end of the world, so it is what it is. I mean, I'm not, like, heartbroken, but I think they could have done a little better on that front. Like I said, the level design was fine. The main crux of the game, I would say, other than just running through the levels, is collecting things. It's a very collectathon-based thing, but I don't think the things are all that fun to collect. I don't really like when a 3D platformer is mainly a collectathon. I like when, unless you actually get a benefit. So, if you're at the 3D platformer either has to have collectibles on the side that you don't necessarily have to get, or there has to be, like, some real benefit for getting the collectibles. So, like, in Donkey Kong Bonanza, every 5 bananas or so, you get a skill point, and then you can actually, increase your power and stuff. And so while you don't need to get a banana at all, you're encouraged to get as many as you can. You're incentivized to get as many as you can to power up your skill tree, not necessarily to make the game easier, but because it's fun to use new mechanics and become stronger, and you get stuck in that loop, right? And on top of that, I think the collectibles are more well hidden in Bonanza, and they're more fun to get, and, there's a lot more satisfaction in a lot of those systems in Bonanza. In a game like Pac-Man World, the collectibles are all fruit. So there are fruits of all different types hidden in every single level. Every single level has all the fruits. And these fruits don't really have any function other than just to give you points. And so what I find is that a lot of the fruits are actually kind of tough to get. And if you get a bunch of fruits, you get more points. And at the end of each level, you get to spin a roulette, like a lucky 7 thing, like a slot machine. You get to spin a slot machine to get extra lives. Now, if you get, like, 3 of the same thing, you can get extra lives. If you get 2, you can get, like, 1 extra life. And if you don't get any, you don't get any extra lives. The thing is, to get these fruits, in order to get these spins, I feel like oftentimes you have to die. Like, they're kind of in weird spots. And they're not always impossible to get. They're not, like, that hard. but I feel like you're kind of just running the risk of dying unnecessarily with the platforming by getting these fruits. And so if you don't get any fruits, you're totally fine. You'll never die, you won't get game overs, it won't be a problem. You just run through the levels, no big deal. If you try to get the fruits, you're not going to die either, because you're going to get enough lives to kind of make it worth it. And so it feels like there's not really any incentive to get the fruits, because you could just as easily miss all the fruits, and then, have, just as many lives as you need. But if you get all the fruits, then, like I said, just again, you have as many lives as you need. I don't think it makes any difference whatsoever whether you get the fruits, and there's no further incentive to get the fruits. And the fruits are just kind of scattered randomly. It seems like there's very little rhyme or reason as to where the fruits are. It's not fun to collect them. There's no, challenge to collecting them, per se. You're literally just kind of, oh, well, you'll be running through a level, you'll cross a bridge, and you get to an area, you hit a button, and now you gotta go back across the bridge to grab a fruit, and then you come back. And it's just backtracking for no reason. It's just artificially lengthening the game. There's literally no rhyme or reason to get any of these fruits, hardly ever. Every now and then, a fruit will open a door somewhere in the level. And so you never know which fruit you're supposed to get. And it seems to me that the levels were designed without the fruits, and they shoehorn the fruits in later in the game. There seems to be no actual reason why the fruits are there. As far as why they unlock doors and stuff, I don't understand. Sometimes I'll grab a fruit, and then later on there'll be a door to unlock it, or that it unlocks. Other times there won't be. And so it seems to me like they literally just had, when they were making the level, they had the key mechanic to open doors, and later on they decided, oh, we'll make it a fruit. There's just fruits, just for no reason. There's just fruits around, they're just around. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. I don't care. And I understand that it's kind of supposed to be oh, this is the history of Pac-Man, because in the original game there were fruits scattered around as well. I don't know. It just feels like, to me, it's very good at honoring Pac-Man's history, but there seems to be no rhyme or reason for any of the mechanics in the game. The other thing that frustrated me with Pac-Man World Re-Pac, the shadows and stuff are weird. I feel like Pac-Man does not cast much of a shadow, and you got a really weird camera angle, because it is a 3D platformer, but it's not top-down. It's kind of, you're looking at it on the side. And so sometimes the game will randomly go to a 2D setting, and sometimes it'll lock you in so that you can't move on a Z-axis. You only have X and Y. Kind of like those sections in Mario Galaxy, right, where you go into a 2D setting. Other times, instead, you're in a 2D setting where there's no reason to ever go on the Z-axis, but you can still. They don't lock you in. And so sometimes I'll go to make a jump onto a platform, and I'll miss it because you can't understand the depth perception because you're at a weird camera angle. If the camera angle changed, or if you could manually change it to look on top of Pac-Man, or even behind him, that would be fine. But because you're looking at him from the side, it's a little bit hard to gauge his shadow based on the platforms. And the shadows aren't good either. You don't have a clear shadow under Pac-Man for most of the time, and so it just feels like it's very difficult to gauge where Pac-Man's going to land sometimes when you make these jumps. There's also weird things where sometimes you'll have to roll up some stairs. You have this charge up thing, and then you do a roll, kind of like a Sonic spin dash. And sometimes, sorry, I'm kind of sick. Sometimes the spin dash will actually launch you off of a cliff. You'll be standing at the bottom of the thing, and you just get launched off a cliff, and there's no way to stop it. You can't cancel the spin dash halfway through. And so it seems like sometimes, like I said, there's no rhyme or reason. They're just artificially lengthening the game, killing you for no reason, other than just to frustrate you. It feels like old archaic NES level design where they just mess with you for no reason. And it's not that the game's hard per se, but every now and then you'll just have a weird thing where it's oh, I've got to, spin dash up these ramps, and you'll spin dash up a ramp, and oh, you're at the top. Then you'll spin dash up the next ramp, and oh, now it's too far, you're dead. You just have to guess. You just have to know things before you could possibly know them. And so there's weird things like that. The depth perception sucks. When I first loaded up the game as well, I'm playing on the Switch 1. When I first loaded up the game, sorry, I'm playing on the Switch 2, but it's a Switch 1 version, and it doesn't make any difference. There's no, upgrade or anything. When I first loaded up the game with the Switch 1 version, it was very laggy. It was a very unstable frame rate. It was choppy. It was in 30 frames per second, but it was also unstable. And so I would be walking around and I would like glitch around. Like Pac-Man would like teleport around randomly. Like there was weird like rubber banding and stuff. And turns out all it was is I had to change to performance mode. They have a quality mode and a performance mode. And for some reason they default you to the performance mode, which is true with a lot of games. But usually the performance mode, or sorry, the quality mode still at least performs okay-ish, right? Like you expect it to at least run, even if it doesn't run perfectly. Um, and so that was also frustrating me that I had to even change that to begin with. They should have defaulted me to a good setting, or they should have taken the quality mode out of the Switch version, because obviously the Switch is less powerful, it's harder to optimize, and so they clearly didn't do enough work to optimize it well for the Switch 1, and yet they still left in the quality mode and made it the default, so that people who don't understand settings and don't understand why their game is running terribly, they won't be able to fix it, a lot of them. So yeah, there were just weird things with Pac-Man World. The boss fights, I will say, were actually pretty cool. They were well inspired. They weren't hard or anything, but they were interesting. But yeah, the level design was meh. The collectibles were randomly shoehorned in, um, and overall, it just was not a phenomenal game. We'll say. So, yeah, I honestly, I'm pretty negative on it coming out, but it is what it is. It was an okay game. It's one of those ones that a lot of people, it's one of those 3D platformers that's pretty popular. A lot of people talk about it, or a lot of people at least know about it. And so, as a guy who loves 3D platformers, even if I play a pretty bad 3D platformer, I still play it, and I still somewhat enjoy it. Like honestly, if I wasn't a 3D platformer guy, this game would suck. I would probably never would have finished it. But because I'm a fan of 3D platformers, I finished it and I thought it was okay. It could have been a lot better. But yeah, it's just one of those things where I would recommend this game to you if you're a 3D platformer fan and you haven't played some of the other, and if you already played some of the other like more quintessential 3D platformers. But if you're not a platformer person, then it's not at all worth playing. This game kind of sucks. Or unless you're like a Pac-Man fan, then maybe. But generally, I would not recommend it to everybody. I do have the second one as well, so that one's on Switch 2 rather than Switch 1. So I will be playing that at some point, probably next year. I was gonna kind of jump right into it, and I have no desire to do that anytime too soon. I'm gonna wait a little bit. So we'll see what happens. I imagine I'll probably play that at some point. Like I said, probably next year. This game, I beat it on the 2nd of November, and about 7 hours total it took me. So it's fine. It's a fine game. It's not great. It's going to be pretty low on my list this year. I've not played any more Uncharted. If you listen to, I don't know if it was the last episode or the one before that. I think it was the one before that. I did talk a little bit about Uncharted. I started playing Uncharted. And yeah, it was just fine. I haven't done a whole lot more. Maybe play like an hour more or something. I'm not super far along. I think I'm probably like halfway through the game or so. So that's another one that I am confident I can finish before the end of the year, probably before the end of the month. Honestly, if that was the only thing I was playing, I could finish it this week probably. But I'm not going to be playing a ton as much because I'm going to be doing other things. I'm hoping to live stream again soon. We'll see what happens. So yeah, Uncharted. I've not really played any more of Uncharted. I am also, though, in the process of 2 other things that I have started since the last episode. The first one is Pokemon Legends Arceus. I did actually start Pokemon Legends Arceus. Now, though many of you will know that I'm not like a huge Pokemon fan. I've not played a lot of Pokemon. I'm not usually super into it. But I did kind of want to try Legends ZA, and I wanted to play Legends Arceus before that, because the Legends series seems like a pretty big departure from other Pokemon games, and so I kind of wanted to try them out. I had tried Pokemon Shield already a couple years ago, and I thought it was fine-ish, but I'm not like a huge fan necessarily. So I figured I wanted to try a game that was taking a different approach, and Legends Arceus was that game. Legends ZA is also that game, but I figured I kind of want to try both of them, so I figured I'd try Arceus first, since it makes sense to do it in that order. And I've got to say, Legends Arceus is better than I expected. Pokemon Legends Arceus, pretty solid game so far. I'm not super far in, I'm only a few hours in, and obviously this is a game that I imagine, even if I do the bare minimum, which I've already not done the bare minimum, I imagine this game will take me quite a long time. Honestly, it could take me 50 hours and I would not be surprised. So, it's a long game. So I'm very far from really having made any substantial progress on it. And I'm not really too worried about it. It's just one of those things that I'm going to play here and there, a little bit every now and then. I'm not planning on finishing it for this year. It'll probably be in the conversation for next year if I actually beat it. It's not going to be in any sort of conversation for this year. Don't expect to see this on my top end of the year list or anything. It's not going to be one I beat this year. I will probably talk about it a little bit periodically in future episodes. I don't have a ton to say on it now. I guess I will say, obviously Pokemon, the writing is weird. The writing is weird. A lot of weird things with it. I will say Legends Arceus does actually run pretty well. I think. There is a free upgrade on the Switch too, so I think that's probably why it's running a little better than it did for some people back in the day. And also, Legends Arceus always ran at least better than uh, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So, Pokemon Legends Arceus, it's a pretty solid game so far. I've played a little bit of it. I know I have a lot of friends that play Pokemon, and I've always been the guy that doesn't play Pokemon. So some of them were kind of like surprised, like, oh my gosh, she's playing Pokemon, like of all things. Like it was quite the shock for some of those guys. So it's a little strange. It's a little unlike me to be playing a Pokemon game, but yeah, that's what I've been doing. That's one of the things I've been playing. I guess the other thing I will talk about a little bit more, that game is Splatoon 2. I have played almost 4 hours of Splatoon 2, and I think I'm already more than halfway through. It's not a very long game or anything. Splatoon 2, I played Splatoon 1 back in July. I think I beat it on my birthday, July 8th, which is kind of cool. And I played that earlier this year. It was great. I thought it was very fun. Like, I've never really played Splatoon online. My first experience with Splatoon was actually the third one. I bought Splatoon 3 a few years ago. And I played probably about an hour or so of the online. And then I tried, like, the first level of the single player. And that was all I ever played of it. And I didn't think it was bad. I just, like, I don't know. I just had other things to play. And I just wasn't too concerned about it. I don't know. I mean, Splatoon, it seems, the multiplayer does not interest me really too much. Once I play Splatoon 3, I might stop and play a little bit of multiplayer just to kind of try things out. Or I might wait till Raiders. I'm curious to try a little bit of multiplayer, but it does not really interest me too much. I'm not really much of a multiplayer guy. I play Minecraft with my friends every now and then. That's about it. Otherwise, I'm not much. I just don't play a whole lot of multiplayer stuff. That said, Splatoon actually has a shockingly good single-player campaign. I know there's lots of people out there that have played hundreds and hundreds of hours of Splatoon and absolutely never touched the single-player campaign. I think you should. It's great. The single-player campaign on both the first and the second one has been phenomenal. And I will probably talk more details, more specifics on next episode about Splatoon 2, because I'll probably have beat it by then. So don't expect any crazy things here just yet. But yeah, Splatoon 1, pretty good game. Splatoon 1 was a great game. I think it's actually been pretty high on my list. And Splatoon 2 so far is, I would say, pretty similar. Like, there's not like a ton of difference between the two in the single player campaign. They're very similar, and that's fine. It's kind of more of the same, and it's great. So I'm not complaining. Usually, more of the same is kind of a bad connotation, kind of a negative thing. But in this situation, it's more of a really good thing, and I'm totally cool with more of a really good thing. And I'm excited to play the Octo expansion at some point and move up to the to Splatoon 3 as well. I'm very excited. So we'll see how that works. Like I said, I'll probably have beat the main game for Splatoon 2, and I think I'm gonna probably count Splatoon 2 and Octo expansion separately on my end of the year list. We'll see what happens. If they feel similar enough, I might count them together. Or I might count them separate. It'll probably depend as well. If I'm at like 39 games at the end of the year, I'm going to count them separately to get to 40. But if I'm at like 43, I'm not going to care too much about 43 versus 44. So we'll see what happens. That's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, I imagine I'll probably have to beat this next week. And I'll talk more specifics on it then. So yeah, stay tuned for that, I suppose. I mentioned Pokemon. I mentioned Splatoon. I talked about Pac-Man World. I guess I should actually address the elephant in the room. Earlier in this episode, I was talking about how, I had gotten this out, whatever, it was Tuesday. It's actually Thursday now, and I'm trying to finish this up. And this episode is going to be shorter, and it's also late. And we also missed last week, so I know there's a lot of weird stuff with that. And I apologize. But again, things have been a little chaotic. I've been really locking in on practicing violin and stuff. And also, I've been sick. It's been hard to record this. And of course, I had the microphone issues last week. So it's just been a lot of things. I'm hoping to actually get proper videos out again soon, hopefully starting next week. And so for now, the plan is to go weekly again on the podcast, at least for a while. We'll see how that works out. If we start missing weeks again, then I'll just call it bi-weekly again. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. It's really just one of those things where it can be kind of tough sometimes to weigh whether or not, it's whether I should do the podcast or whether I should work on other videos or what exactly I should do. I'm still kind of new to this whole podcast thing, so it could be tough sometimes. So I apologize for when I don't pull through, such as the last couple of weeks. I do also, and talking about games I'm playing, we're really kind of getting to that point in the year that I've got to kind of really be thinking about, like, end of the year stuff. And so I think I mentioned last time, I'm pretty sure, I can't actually remember for sure if I mentioned this. A year ago, I did the end of year ranking. So that I did every game that I played, every new game I played in 2024. I ranked them all at the end of the year on one list, and that went on Christmas Day. This time, I'm not going to put it out on Christmas, but I'm going to do basically the exact same video, just with all the games I've played in 2025. And the plan right now is for that video to come out on the 19th, I believe, is the Friday right before Christmas. It could end up being after Christmas, though. We'll see what happens. But that's not till December anyways. So that's the plan as far as that end of the year video. This will be the third of those type of videos that I've made. So I made the end of year ranking for 2024. I made my top 50 list, which was very similar because it was almost the exact same amount of games, and also the same style of video. I did that back in July, and so this will be the third time that I'm doing this kind of idea. And so that's the plan. My goal this time is to make the video a little bit shorter because I think the last couple of times it felt a little bit bloated. Maybe not the top 50 so much, but definitely the end of the year ranking felt bloated last year. So my goal is to cut that down a little bit, and just talk a little bit less about each one. That's the idea. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. But yeah, that's the end of the year video. I don't really know if I'm going to do anything else for the end of the year. I should probably figure that out. I was going to do like a clips video thing, best of the year stuff, but I honestly have not uploaded enough this year for me to think that it would make sense. So I'm probably not going to do that. So I don't know. If you have any other suggestions, you can feel free to comment them. I would be happy to hear that. I was thinking of doing some news stuff, but I think it would make more sense if I just waited till next week when I had more time to actually really dive into that stuff. And so I might actually just call this good for the episode. I know this is a very short episode. This might be the shortest episode of the podcast yet. And so I apologize that after a hiatus, I'm back with a very short episode. But my goal is to come back next week, having probably beaten Splatoon 2 and hopefully having some to say about Yakuza Kiwami. That's the goal. And we'll talk about some new stuff and stuff. So that's the plan. Hopefully next week things will be a little bit more normal again, as far as the podcast is concerned. So bear with me. Hopefully I won't be sick as well. That was part of it too. I could have recorded this show over the weekend, and then probably got it out in time. The problem was I was sick, and I don't know. I felt like I couldn't really record. First of all, I would sound really weird, and also, I just the lung capacity. It's one of those things. Like when I get really sick, it can be really tough to record the podcast specifically, because it takes talking a lot, and so I'll have like very frequent pauses, and so at the end I've got to edit out all this extra stuff. Sometimes I'm coughing, and so there's just a lot of weird things with that. And honestly, I still don't feel great, and we're more than a week into this, so. I think I'll be doing a little better next time. That's the plan. I think I'm going to call it good, though, like I said, for this show, because I'm recognizing that I don't have much to say this week, and it's been a busy week, and it's really just me apologizing over and over again for not putting the podcast out, and so what's the point of that? It's not the most entertaining of content, so I figure let's just call this good. This is kind of let's use this episode as a bit of a stopgap, be like, hey, look, things went weird last week. Here's a couple of the things I've been up to. And let's, look in the future, and that'll be stuff for the end of the year. So, year's winding down, and with that, the episode should also wind all the way down until it's off. let's call it good. Thanks everyone for watching. Like I said, you could find the show in lots of different places at this point. There's all the different channels in the description. I'll link the new podcast channel down there as well. So subscribe to that. Even if you don't want to listen to the podcast on that YouTube channel, please subscribe to that because it definitely helps get other people to see the podcast. Already, I've had a couple different comments on that new channel from people that never watched my main channel. Like, it's already reached new people. So I think that would be great if everybody would go check that out. And with that said, I'll see you guys next week. That is the plan, next week. I'm planning not to miss another one unless I get super sick again or an asteroid falls on my head tomorrow. That's the plan. So best of luck. Fingers crossed that everything will be back to normal. All right, see you guys.